Hi, and welcome to the Fancy Comma YouTube. Today I'm joined by Earle Ford. Earle Ford is currently running for the House of Representatives in Florida's District 13, and I did not have a chance to edit his bio to be in the third person, so I'll just read what he sent me. He said, like a lot of civil servants, my father was in the military and born overseas. Upon coming back, settled down in Cheyenne, Wyoming, raised out there, and graduated from the University of Wyoming criminal justice. After graduating, I oddly decided to enlist in the U.S. Army as an airborne infantryman. After spending 3 years in the military, attended law school in Central Florida. After passing the bar, worked as a prosecutor out there. We moved to Tampa, Florida shortly thereafter. Go Buccaneers. That's not in the bio. Joined the IRS in 2021 and entered into the estate and gift tax program targeting the top 10% of 1%. Recently resigned to run for office and just filed in Florida's Congressional District 13. Welcome, Earle. It's nice to have you on here. So tell us about working at the IRS and what motivated you to resign and run for office.
I don't think when I graduated law school, I anticipated joining the IRS or anything. It was just after we moved to Tampa, you're looking for jobs. And actually, one of my close Army friends was like, hey, man, government's like a good place to be. If you get in government, you'll find where you want to land. And so he's like, just apply and see what happens. And it's just one of those things like where when I was coming out of law school, everyone was doing like insurance defense, and like I said, I was a prosecutor. I really enjoyed it, but the workload and obviously money plays into it. But yeah, so I joined the IRS in 21, and I never thought it'd be the place where I wanted to retire. Like this stuff's not easy, but if you're willing to put in the work, you're going to really enjoy this career, and you're going to like enjoy your environment. I had a little bit of a tax background, not huge, but they teach you everything, like whether it's like estate tax, trust, like generation skipping tax. I mean, they throw everything at you. It was a great learning experience, and it's weird to finish that training and all of a sudden they throw cases at you that are worth like, 50, $60 million. The other cool part was they had this whole world of people that had specialization in order to understand what was going on with like, your cases. And in doing so, you meet tons of people, have the opportunity to learn from them. It was a great experience. I saw a lot of really good people, veterans, people who committed 30, 40 years of their life to their country. Professionalism, integrity, honesty, like did everything right, and they were treated like garbage. I didn't have a long career in the military, but still it instilled some values in me. And ultimately, I wanted to fight for those people. And because, like I said, you care about them, you work with them every day, you hear about their families and, learn their history. And like everyone comes from different backgrounds. So you just want to be a voice for them. And I was kind of lucky enough to be, I guess, younger, but also have a little bit of background to, make this leap. I just wanted to be a voice for all these people that I cared about. So that's what ultimately led me to leave the job that I love. But in doing so, I hope to really, really fight for them.
So I have to ask, were you motivated at all to run for office by your work at the IRS in the estate and gift tax program? I took a look at like a summary of what happened with the BBB, and they made permanent the tax breaks for people like above a certain income level while
Yeah.
also cutting Medicare and making Medicaid insolvent sooner. Did your work in the estate and gift tax program feed into the tax code affecting millionaires and billionaires?
Yes and no. Under the first Trump administration, I think it was the 2017 bill, really ramped up, gave them a huge estate tax credit. So estate tax wasn't really touched that much in the big beautiful bill. It was mostly income tax. But that being said, like having obviously you're an IRS, so you have a kind of pulse of what's kind of going on. And there's programs that we work around called like LB&I, Large Business and International, but within all these different sub departments. But they're kind of spearheading it, and you could kind of get perspective from the CPAs, like how is this going to impact people? And largely, like the big thing, like the Republicans pushed is like it's a tax cut. Well, it's a tax cut for obviously the really wealthy, and it's like a nominal tax cut for normal people. And so like our job is just to enforce whatever Congress tells us. So like we know it's going to be unfair. I want to say that was the sole catalyst. A big catalyst was treatment of federal workers. You see how unfair it is, like with taxes. Obviously, you see the amount of wealth people have, and I think for normal people, they just don't grasp the concept of the astronomical wealth at the top. Like until you've seen like an estate tax return, normal people don't see those zeros, that amount of zeros on a return. And even revenue agents, you're not looking at a $3 billion tax return with somebody that has like a $1.2 billion real estate portfolio and then 600 million in private equity, another 400 million in public stocks. So people just don't understand that. And there's other things coming down the pipeline. IRS is going to lower its enforcement on grats. And grats are a huge thing. It's a grantor retained annuity trust, which is a huge mechanism to transfer wealth among the super rich. And you hear from the news like, hey, they're trying to get us to reduce enforcement on that. So it's everything. Like you hear how unfair it is for normal people, and then you see all the people with already everything they could ever want, they're getting it, and the people who are already getting everything, they're making life a living hell for the civil servants who've only wanted to serve their country and do the right thing. And then obviously like my time as a veteran, like my time in the service, all these things kind of just add up. So that's ultimately what led me, to pursue this. IRS has so much data and information. You literally have access to everything when you're doing like an audit. With everything going on right now, you realize how unlevel the playing field really is.
I've been talking to a lot of federal workers, fired federal workers in the sciences, and they're obviously really upset. It's like people that have gotten grants that have gotten defunded, people that worked in different federal agencies that were like science agencies. Does your work deal with any of that, or do you have any thoughts on the long-term effects of these layoffs? Like, is that part of your platform to stand up for federal workers?
Absolutely. And obviously, like you hear like EPA, NIH, NOAA. I have a friend at NOAA in St. Pete. I know scientists are getting hammered, but I can tell you from my perspective from the IRS, even if I didn't know that, the amount of brain drain we're having is devastating. And it's devastating because the IRS doesn't the estate tax attorneys we're going against. These people are like among the highest paid attorneys in the world. I mean, the fees they're collecting are 1 or 2% of the gross estates that are worth $1 billion. So these people can afford the best.
So you're saying the lawyers for the estate are well-paid, rich lawyers as well?
They're among the best attorneys in the world. And like so in my program, we actually work outside of IRS counsel. So we're kind of in a weird niche area. What you got historically was like people in IRS, they weren't making $500,000 a year, but you're paid like a respectable salary. You had your normal working hours, you had your work-life balance, and all intrinsic value of giving to your country. And so like obviously like you get really smart people in IRS. And these people were among the best and they knew their jobs. We had subject matter experts on super complicated stuff. And all of a sudden, all these people are gone. These people would fully understand everything, and now all these people are being pushed out. So the amount of brain drain we have, I can only imagine what every other agency is seeing. When I talked to my evaluation analyst before I left, I think he said they had like 37 people, and these are people, you evaluate complex businesses, and I think we were down to like 6 or 7 after they fired everyone. The other thing too is with the states, you're up against a 3-year statute of limitations, which you can't extend. With that kind of coming in the picture, we may not even have time to work these cases. Not only is the government losing a lot of revenue, but also the amount of resources and like the people we lost, it's going to take generations to get back.
The government currently has several different ways to raise revenue. One of them is tariffs, which has made grocery shopping really, really bizarre because I go to the grocery store and I'm like, oh, this is only $7. And then I buy it and then I open it and it's like slightly less than it was last time, but it's like more expensive. And then the other revenues are like, I think the Trump administration announced H-1B visas now have a $100,000 fee. Elon Musk tried to do this with Twitter. Elon Musk bought it and he monetized it to high heaven. I don't find it to be the same product. And now I feel like that's what's happening to our government. But our government, if you ask me, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think our government should be monetized the same way Twitter is, because the government is not a company. So, you've worked in the IRS, like I assume that it's not hard to go after these people that are rich and they found tax loopholes, or maybe they didn't even pay their taxes and they just have good lawyers that help them not pay their taxes. Like, is that really like like as a policy solution to like balancing the budget? Do you think it makes sense for us to be more aggressive the same way we are with people that are on the lower end of the as a freelancer? When I first started freelancing, I couldn't even qualify for exchange health insurance. I didn't have health insurance for a while, but then I was like, the less money I had, the more problems I had. So I'm like, can we go after rich people and tell them to pay their taxes, and would that solve the federal deficit? That's what I'm wondering, since you've worked in the IRS.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of part of my platform. You hear about the vast wealth at the top, right? I forgot the number, but it's minuscule like amount of people that have a majority of the wealth at the top. There was like some study that came out a few years ago that said for every dollar the IRS spends on the wealthiest people, we get $12 back. Whereas every dollar we spend on normal people, we get anywhere from like, I think it's like $5 to $8. So it's worth it to go after the wealthy people. The problem is it is extremely expensive to go after the wealthy people. Like a normal person, a lot of times is like they have like I think the ACS automated collection system, and then you have a revenue officer to tie into it, and that's kind of the revenue officers are like actually. I mean, I'm gonna give them a shout out because they're super specialized. They don't get the credit they deserve. They're pretty well versed in like collection methods, but also like law and stuff. They're very good at what they do. So we know for a fact we can actually get more money at the top. But like I said, like when I was kind of going over my case, like a normal case that I might have, I might bring in 6, 7 different experts. And that's before if we go to tax court or district court, if if it's tax court, IRS takes over. If it's district, obviously DOJ will take over. So the amount of governmental resources involved like starts to really ramp up. And then ultimately you hope that you win, and then that's that revenue. So yeah, like flat out, a huge portion of my platform is the amount of money at the top. And right now, what people don't realize is when I actually got hired on, my territory manager told me like right now is the largest transfer of wealth in human history. They're trying to move it out of their state to avoid that state tax. And so there's methods to capture this. You've also heard the buy, borrow, die thing, right? The really wealthy using loans to circumvent income tax. And from my perspective, we don't really deal with that per se. Like on a 706 return, we'll see that usually, in my experience, as a margin loan or like a line of credit, which will be paid back to the state. But a lot, I mean, that's more the income world, but still, they're circumventing a substantial amount of tax doing that. And that's only available to the wealthiest of the wealthy. So the whole idea is, again, another part of my platform is I've seen the 706s and the classic arguments like these people are job creators. Not, they're hoarders. I mean, they really are. I mean, you see $1 billion, $1 billion worth of public stock. That's not job creation. So like they're saying that, and I'm of the mindset the job creator is the consumer, like normal people. Like Elon Musk doesn't need 100 million of Apple phones, but if 100 million Americans buy Apple phones, that makes Apple a huge company. So that's kind of what the perspective I'm trying to, you know, running this campaign, trying to like let people know there is more than enough money to not only reduce the deficit, but actually take the load off the middle class and lower, and the the lower classes. Like we could have safety nets, we could have nice things. So the whole idea of like why these people just need more and more and more and more is kind of beyond me.
I love that the IRS can actually be a benefit to the everyday person, because I don't think of the IRS as like that, because I'm just like every year I just have to do this and then send in my money. But it sounds like what was already happening at the IRS was actually benefiting everyday Americans, but then we got rid of it thanks to the I guess, dojification and like labeling everything as waste, fraud, and abuse without really stopping to think about what it really was. So, what's your platform in this race?
Tip of the scales in the favor of the middle class, right? Like the middle class has historically always gotten us out of every issue the United States has ever been in. We need to win World War I, World War II, it's the middle class. You need to go to the moon, it's the middle class. You want like manufacturing, it's the middle class. My platform is, from what I've seen, I think billionaires are a literal parasite on the middle class. I mean, Elon Musk, for example, he runs SpaceX, right? And he gets all the credit for SpaceX. Well, it's not Elon Musk coming up with, new ideas to create like the Raptor engine. It's some person's kid, just graduated college. Some engineer at like making $80,000 a year tells Elon Musk, "Hey, I got this great idea," and Elon Musk says, "Hey guys," like goes out on Twitter and is like, "Hey, I'm the smart guy." And so instead of this kid getting all the credit, Elon Musk gets a new government contract because he's more efficient. So the big thing is boosting the middle class, and one of the big things that I really want to like be an advocate for is labor. And within the IRS, we are part of the NTU, National Treasury Employees Union, along with I think Department of Homeland Security. Our NTU is at the forefront of the war against unions. AFG is too, but NTU was standing up and they're fighting and they're doing everything they can, and this administration is using the full might of the government to try and silence them. We need to focus on the middle class because the people at the top, they have so much. Like it's beyond me. Like, why wouldn't you want to like give back a little bit? Like give back to the country that's given you so much. So instead of like people living paycheck to paycheck, like let them benefit. America is this great country, and empathy, decency, and respect are important. And having those social safety nets there to like catch us when we fall isn't just as important. And I think right now the administration, what you're seeing pervasive weakness and like these people that are emasculated, and the only thing they know how to do is punch down. I think strength is in compassion and empathy and making sure people, when they go to sleep at night, they're not worried about the bills, and they have a job and they have health care, and they know their basics are going to be taken care of because like they're putting in their effort, they're doing what they can. So that's kind of the platform, is just really advocating for the middle class and leveling the playing field. We could get in the fiscal part of it. The debt is not sustainable, so somebody's going to have to pay it down. And if you want a capitalistic country, you need an IRS. If the only way you get away from an IRS, the United States will start its own businesses, and that's like communism or whatever, those farther
So
stuff.
you're saying the United States starts a company and creates profit based on that, and then that's how we fund our government. I feel like that would be such a drastic transition. I would not trust a single person with that transition because I'd
And
just stop for Doge.
but that's what you kind of see though. Like, right, we took a stake in Intel, right? I mean, the U.S. government took a 10% stake in Intel. They're trying. I think they took a stake in the steel, I think they were trying to get a stake in like the Japanese steel company. Tax collection is how you avoid that in a capitalistic society, and it's weird. And like it's weird how how much people demonize the IRS, but the IRS ultimately is why we have so many awesome things, like those cool Air Force fighter jets, and those bridges that you get to drive across, and oh yeah, those social security checks, and so that's the IRS. IRS is a literal backbone of the country. You don't get grants, you don't get hospitals, you don't get all this stuff that we've come to love and enjoy. The IRS is necessary if you want to live in a capitalistic society. You need a tax revenue.
You definitely need capital. That's like the first thing you need for a capitalist society.
The one interesting perspective, like I always liked, like the administration is supposed to be some great businessman. Well, no businessman in the world will say, "Hey guys, as a way to like make more money, let's get rid of our accounts receivable department." The IRS is the accounts receivable department. No CEO in the history of the world will say, "Hey, let's fire the like accounts receivable people." I mean, that's what we are. I mean, so you can't run a business unless you're getting paid. So that's the stupidity of this administration, and I think we're in for a reckoning.
Well, I've noticed something because I'm a scientist by training, and we are all about facts and evidence. And up until recently, our government was all about facts and evidence, but now like every day, like for especially if you follow health news, which I hope you don't, because it's like Tylenol causes autism, or like vaccines. What I've noticed is like no one ever says like that's wrong. They just keep pushing through with like, especially this agenda, like they don't admit that they're wrong on anything.
Oh no, so I can speak from this from a personal level. So my wife's an OBGYN. The whole Tylenol thing is near and dear to us. So obviously we have a lot of friends that are physicians as well. But that's the thing. For the first time in history, you have professional organizations saying, don't believe the CDC. Like, don't believe what they're saying. It's kind of like heartbreaking because historically, all these like American heroes were like civil servant type people. Like they're military people, they're scientists. Like you hear about like the vaccines. Like this guy, like, you know, he could have went to market and made $1 trillion, but he's like, I'm just going to do this because it's the right thing to do. Like I want to be a decent human being and do the right thing. And now everything is like make money, make money, make money. And I think everything within the administration is a massive grift. This whole thing with Pfizer and the like, if you don't make us pay tariffs, then you could cut prescription costs. But then also all the medicines are going up. They went up like 700% or something like that. So everything within this administration, it seems as a huge grift. Up until this point, you always had objective, fact-based evidence to make the best decision because you were affecting so many people's lives. And we're in a world that just you have a scientist who has like published works and has been in his like profession for 25 years and understands every little nuance, and then you have an influencer on the other side and they're treating them as equal. Just because you have a microphone doesn't mean anyone should listen to you. And so one of the jokes is podcast equipment has just become too cheap and it's more about clicks. And so like you're taking like, the podcaster who get 1 million views versus the scientist who's objective and doesn't know how to like put sexy things out there to get the views, but is being honest, and the podcaster has more credibility. So it's just like everything with this administration is a huge grift. And you're starting to see cracks too. You're starting to see cracks within MAGA. You're starting to see cracks within the Republican Party. Or you're hearing news about how like this is unsustainable. You see Senator like Kennedy, who's a physician, and like what the hell is going on? And the whole idea we're not making decisions based on like the best possible evidence is absolute insanity, and there's going to be serious consequences. Whether it's young kids are going to die, people are going to needlessly die or suffer, and it's heartbreaking because it's all goes back to greed.
It's heartbreaking because the experts are right there, no one's listening to them. And it is a really huge problem in science to get people to understand what you're saying. And I feel like politicians really have mastered the art of like messaging even scientific things to fit their political narratives. There actually are a few scientists that I've tried to reach out to that are also running for House offices. I actually did a while ago speak to a lady that ran against Chip Roy that is in Texas, and she's a scientist.
That's kind of one of the things too. It's the messaging, right? Certain things click or it's been weaponized in a way. For instance, climate change, right? It's been weaponized in the sense that like it's easy to push back. Like politicians who want to make a difference, you need to change the way we address that. So like, are you for clean water? Are you for clean air? Are you clean? Like if you're anti clean air, try and say that out on like when you're on your political speech. But like we have to adapt, and I think within and this is kind of why I think you're seeing maybe veterans and you're seeing a lot of Gen Zs running right now. It's the messaging, and so being much more blunt and being more open to addressing it in different ways. I think that's how you break through, because you can be the most anti, I don't believe in climate change, but you want clean air and you could make America healthy again. Well, it starts with clean air and clean water. So there's it's the messaging and then being able to adapt and change, and I think with my campaign, we hope to make inroads in that kind of capacity and like, really bring the Democratic Party up to speed in how to communicate and try and win over these arguments that we get stuck on over like semantics. So
I
yeah.
would love to see that because I feel like that's really what's missing is politicians getting up there and saying one thing and it's like not even true, but then everyone just loving that explanation more than the actual truth. Is that a problem with our politicians, or Is there just something really wrong happening with that? That boggles my mind sometimes.
But yeah, I also think though too, it's like what you're seeing ultimately is a failure of moral courage. Like people are so comfortable that they're like afraid to like lose or do the right thing.
What used to be like really great was like reach across the aisle, have some kind of common ground. People, when they get attacked, they just go more and more in their own direction. And then all of their supporters are like, thank you for standing up for what's right. And then there's me like being like, are you truly serious about the way our country is going right now? In Florida's 13th district, where you just a few days ago, I guess, filed officially to run for the House, and this is your first interview. I've never interviewed a political candidate before, so now I can ask you the question that I have never asked anyone on here is you're challenging Paulina Luna, and really the only thing I know about her is that one time she posted about working out and she used a homophobic slur. And I think she's known for her posts and use of foul language. And do you plan to take on the way that she speaks in her campaign? And it's not just her, I want to say it's a group of politicians like her, Nancy Mace of South Carolina. There's like this whole subculture of kind of like being mean to your fellow man and like using that to get elected. What are your thoughts on what this race might be like?
I mean, if we get past the primaries, obviously, then we're pretty hopeful, and we think we have a message that's going to like resonate with people. But ultimately, it's not the Democratic message of when they go low, we go high. What it is to be blunt, to say what it is instead of dancing around like, oh, she's like a no, we know her complicated history where she hasn't been honest. If you're doing this stuff, your voters are going to say, are they a decent person? And there's already stuff that kind of like shows that maybe there's massive issues with her. Like during Hurricane Helene, she didn't care. She was too busy like putting up her signs. She posts like videos on Instagram, like when the coast got hit. So like she has like a history of this, but ultimately our thing is we're running on like one of the messages too is like America is a meritocracy, right? Like if you put in the work and you like do hard things, you should be rewarded. And she's an influencer. She's an influencer. And you have an influencer government right now who can't make hard choices or can't make the right choices. And that's what we're getting. We're getting a representative who doesn't care about her constituents, possibly their healthcare bills going up anywhere from 30 to 70%. She doesn't care about that we're like a coastal county that relies on FEMA. It's to get follows on Instagram. Our campaign is just to be blunt and then just put my record against her. Like, yeah, she's a veteran, but she's an Instagram model. Like at her core, what she is. She doesn't have like a history of other than the Air Force. I could at least say I was a prosecutor. I just continue my service for the government. I support my fellow man, whether labor, taking care of like the feeding kids at school, like basic stuff of like that shows empathy and compassion. And I also think the country is desperate for it, despite what you see in like the media. I had opportunity to kind of walk around before I announced, and people are like like they're sick of the division, and I think people are starting to see that the division's only there. The reason division's being promoted is because it's masking a lot of the failures, right? You're only like a few months into this, and we're having robust failures, whether it's the economy, whether it's federal government. So they need division in order to cover that up. And when you're struggling and you're going to bed every night worrying about your electrical bill or you're worrying about your insurance, especially out in Florida, we have a massive insurance problem. At a certain point, just being honest and blunt. So like she could attack me, she could do whatever she wants, but no one cares when she hasn't done anything for them. So our perspective is kind of it's been 8 months. You've had the presidency, you have the Senate, and you had the House, and they've done jack, whatever for you. And so, what are you going to expect in the next 2 years? Probably to get worse because they had the opportunity to give you the world, and they didn't. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. Hopefully, we make it to the point where we're able to mount an offensive. I think we're ready for that when that day comes.
I don't know why we voted for influencers to run our government. That's a whole fascinating other world that involves the commingling of digital marketing and power.
You have a person who generates click just based on posting pictures of the body and they discredit scientists. You spend like their life's work building upon important discoveries and more discoveries, and like have a whole body of work that has done significant things. But you're like, oh, like this lady says Dr. Pepper's bad, and then she's we take her advice. So I don't know.
It's perplexing. The government's currently shut down. I ran the Chicago Marathon in the 2013 shutdown, which is about healthcare, and people had signs that said, "You run better than the government." So every time I see a runner here, I just want to roll down my window and be like, "You run better than the government, my guy! Like, good job." But I have not done that. But I was checking Anna Paulina Luna's webpage, and I just want to read this quote because I just feel like this is the crux of what's happening today with our leaders. It says, in Congress, Anna is committed to always fighting against the elitist political establishment that has, for far too long, ignored the interests and needs of the American people. And it's interesting because the government shutdown is once again about that same bill, healthcare, which is actually my healthcare. And I don't want my premiums to go up by almost 100%. I did the math and I pay $700 a month for healthcare. But what do you think about the government shutdown and the role of Paulina Luna's vote in lockstep with the Republicans? What are
Yeah,
your thoughts on the role of this seat in truly representing the interests and needs of the American people?
the good old days of politics, if there was ever was one, are gone. Like the whole job of a representative is to represent your district. So the district has a lot of elderly people and a lot of low income people who are desperate for healthcare. And so the fact that for whatever reason she could disconnect herself and say, "Oh, everything's fine," when in fact it's not, it tells you the state of the American politics, but also it's heartbreaking that a person with that much power and has that potential to really change people's lives is saying no, and it's all for views, and it again goes back to the moral courage and doing the right thing and having empathy and compassion rather than when your entire world revolves around clicks and likes and hearts on Instagram and stuff. It's easy to disconnect because you know you get rewarded by posting sexy pictures, but and then you don't have to worry about the old person who's just is maybe going without health care. I think online's kind of weird. It's created this world where it's okay to not empathize. It's okay not to worry about people because you're getting thumbs up online. And so the fact that if you go to your district and people are suffering, I mean that's hard. That's a hard reality to confront. And you're seeing it why they're not going to their town halls. It's not red versus blue. It's about decency and respect. When you're a federal worker, you're not red or blue team. You're kind of you're just, hey, I have a job to do. And that's kind of what the mission is, right? It's just, this is a continuation of that mission, is just trying to do the right thing. And so the whole idea is most Americans don't go to sleep at night worrying about the debt. And we talked about how we could take care of the debt. And if I told you you could keep your health insurance at the same price, and Elon Musk might have like instead of 12 yachts, he might have 10. I think that's something we could all live with. It's just kind of going back to having good, decent people that listen and people that care. I think that's how we're gonna win, and how our campaign is gonna resonate with normal people.
Well, I would love for politics to go back to that. I don't know when it became so toxic, in my view, this continued effort by Senate and House Republicans to try to get on Donald Trump's good side, to consolidate power, and also to avoid being primaried. And it's like, what is the end game there? And I think the end game is only to just become more powerful without really remembering why they're there and representing us in the first place.
One of my favorite quotes is from BoJack Horseman. When you see the world through rose-colored lenses, all the red flags seem normal. And I think that's what it is, right? It's just everything they see is being oh, it's everything's a-okay. I mean, even though my constituents are suffering, but the polls are still holding. Or if I hold on and I stay in his blessings, I'll stay in power again. Or It's just this huge disconnect. It's only gonna get, the only way it's gonna self correct is when it crashes. Even some people in the Democrats were kind of like, well, let them take their health care. And because like rural counties are gonna be unfairly just hit hard. But in the meantime, you can't say that because there's really good people that are depending on healthcare, and that's what you're fighting for. Like there are good people that, like, they don't deserve this, but like, but ultimately, if the Republicans do this, there's going to be hell to pay. But unfortunately, when there's hell to pay, there's people that are also going to suffer, and they're going to get lost in it. So it's really heartbreaking that it's come down to this. And we're seeing it with government, where things with Social Security all of a sudden, like, all these Social Security offices shut down, or they're not doing paper checks, which are going to unfairly hit senior citizens, or, whether it's research, all this stuff's going to come down and crash. So it just sucks because like we have no power. And then ultimately, like you see right now, the Democrats are the ones being blamed, and the spin machine is so effective that Republicans are like, oh yeah, this is the Democrats' fault when Republicans have all the power. So again, it's only going to be until you have people that are confronted with reality, with like when cable news doesn't match up with reality, that they're going to start saying, okay, like maybe I was wrong, but by then it might be too late. So that's the scary part.
So have you been talking to voters, and what are the voters' concerns in Florida's 13th district?
Healthcare is always a huge issue here. Insurance, it's everything with insurance. It's housing insurance, it's automobile insurance is sky high, and then health insurance. So that's a huge thing. Insurance rates are skyrocketing here, and there's a lot of state and federal issues that you're kind of dealing with, and it's kind of wading into like the property tax issue too. Like what you saw how like over the last few years during COVID, like especially Florida, like the market shot up, and everyone here is dealing with like huge increases in their normal costs. Like so, for instance, insurance here in Florida has like 78% of all the litigation of all insurance claims in the nation. So that alone, when you have lawyers involved, what needs to happen is either the federal government needs to offer a federal insurance program to like protect coastal lines, or sort of like arbitration or mediation like entity to get the lawyers out of it, and so you just keep the adjusters and the claimants making the decision. And then you also have like a lot of fraudulent, like people. The roofing industry here is kind of crazy, so all these things are like really driving up costs. And also Florida didn't expand under the Obamacare expansion, so like that doesn't even include all the other stuff. We have huge labor markets here, everything going on with ICE. Floridians are really in the thick of it. These are all huge issues that we're facing. You need a representative that cares. And the Republican Party have the governorship, state and Senate here, and then obviously at the federal level. And we're still having these they're not interested in correcting them. So until the Democrats get back in power, where we could like really focus on people again, until like the entire system crashes or people just suffer, nothing's going to change.
Well, I hope that entire system doesn't crash, but it's not. It's honestly concerning because every day I see another news article where I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like the price of gold is now at a maximum, and I'm like,
I
that's
think it's
only
like
happens.
4,000.
Yeah, and that only happens when the economy is unstable and people are feeling. I mean,
Yeah, and
I heard like if you know when it's really bad when the price of gold is skyrocketed and people are like buying gunpowder, and I don't think I see anyone like buying gunpowder yet, but like it's it doesn't make me filled with optimism. Like I just feel like
yeah, I
we
mean,
could do better.
and the job report and stuff is like not coming out, but I think Moody's actually just recently come out and they said it's going to be bad. So I mean, Florida's become unaffordable for a lot of people, especially the young people. There's been a huge exodus, like in the last year or two, especially in the Bay Area, Tampa. The Tampa area actually had like one of the highest inflation rates in the nation. So they're in the thick of it. And the other thing too is tourism. I mean, Pinellas has some of the best beaches in the world, and all of a sudden you tell people not to, you convince them not to come because you have to pay insane money for like a visa, or you have German citizens that get detained by ICE even though they're here illegally on a holiday. So all this stuff is adding up, and even the papers around here are saying tourism is down. It's going to take a little bit of time for it to move through the economy, and we're starting to see like maybe like the economy shudder a little bit. But it's just with everything going on. And the scariest part too is throughout history, whenever there was a major economic issue, it was the federal government that intervened, like the New Deal or something, or or the global recession. You had a strong federal government that intervened. Well, you have a severely weakened federal government right now, intentionally. So if we have a significant economic issue, federal government may not be there to save us, and you're going to be in this situation like in a prolonged depression or something like that.
I really like what you said about the social safety net. Like, I feel like if I lived in your district, I would definitely vote for you over in Paulina Luna. The main reason being I am Democrat, and then the other reason being I don't like that style of communication in lawmakers. I feel like they should lead. I don't think they should be making fun of people or using slurs. And other people try because they're a leader, and then they say stuff like that, and then other people comment and they just start adopting that. And then you're like, I wonder why people are so weird to each other. It's because we voted for these people that just don't care about like the things you said, like empathy and just like being nice to your fellow person and helping your fellow person, and also service. Like, wow, we've gotten so far from where I feel like government used to actually help us.
Yeah, they normalize this crazy behavior. I'm a father of two young boys, a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and that's not what I want them to grow up in. I want them to grow up with the values that I grew up with. I mean, America was never perfect, but we at least had like the same ideals that it could be, and so we've fallen away from that. But the optimist in me is that people are. This is going to be a hard lesson, and we'll coalesce, and hopefully we'll come out stronger. Um, it might take a little bit to get there, but whether I make it to the primary or to the general, ultimately what you're seeing decent people run again. And there's cracks on the other side, but I do think there's decency and it will prevail. But I think you're going to see a much stronger response from our side and not tolerating the BS. I do think whether it's going to be a few years, like 2 years from now or 10 years from now, we'll come back, but hopefully there's not too much pain in that.
It's really hard to know, but I'm really grateful for your taking the time to chat with me. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
We just launched our campaign. Our website's going to come up in the next few days. It's just electearle.com. So Earle with an E, elect Earle with an E.com. We'll be launching here shortly, probably making the official announcement, well, hopefully late next week. But yeah, hopefully you'll see us out there and then say hi. And like I said, we have a strong message for the civil servants, the people who serve this country, continue to give for this country, whether you're a teacher, fireman, scientist, or something. We believe in our message, and we believe in unity, and we're stronger together. So we're excited about this. Like I said, I do think there's good things ahead.
Well, thanks for your time today, and for everyone watching this video, check out the description box for links to all of Earle's social media presence, their Act Blue, so you can donate to them if you want to donate to them. Follow them on Instagram. Act Blue is founded by my MIT classmates.
Oh, so they're doing okay then.
Yeah, Matt DeBergalis is doing just fine. Oh, well, maybe not right now because it's a Democratic website. I feel like everything Democratic is getting canceled right now. Like James Comey is like 2 steps away from jail himself, and I'm like, wasn't that the guy that liked Donald Trump? Like everything's all backwards.
Actually, I'm confident in. I think I don't think they have a strong case. It's going to be one of these things with this whole Abrego issue. The guy that got deported and back, I think they had a weak argument for that, and then the judge actually just hammered the administration. I mean, people are starting to again. It's slowly people are cracking. So, but yeah, I think Comey will make it out.
You have to be a lawyer to understand what's going on. Like, man, I wish I was a lawyer to really understand what's happening.
Well, I mean, in fairness, there's a bunch of crazy lawyers doing a lot of this damage, though, too. So
thank you for your time today. I can't wait to see what shape your campaign takes, and I hope you breeze through the primaries so that you can challenge Anna Paulina Luna head on.
Thank you. Sounds good. We'll be there.